Today's video is all about Wakulla Springs, or more specifically, the Edward Bell Wakulla Springs State Park. There's no camping here, but we spent the day swimming in the spring and then we caught a boat ride up the Wakulla River. It was quite a day, and I hope that you enjoy this video because we enjoyed making it.
Everybody called this place home back in the day.
All right, so at the Wakulla Springs Lodge, the lodge is really cool.
It's really a work of art, really.
It is. So Edward Bell, who was married into the
DuPont family, and then he married one of the DuPont sisters, but he was a business manager and financier for the DuPonts.
So he was very successful, and he found this property and wanted to develop it but preserve it.
He wanted people to be able to come and see it, but he didn't want it to be overdeveloped or to tread on the natural. He really saw the beauty in the natural spring and the wildlife that was there, and he put in a lot of effort to preserve it, and he created what he called a private retreat lodge.
Right, and he spared no expense. At the time, it was one of the first that had an elevator, hot water.
And apparently it's the oldest example of an Art Deco elevator that works. And as his dad said, when it works.
It's only 2 stories. The lobby when you walk in is stunning, beautiful marble. The marble work all over the building is amazing. It was all done, cut on site. The stone was brought in. He had artisans to cut it and match the grains. And the wrought iron was done there on site. He had artists come in and paint the ceiling. It's beautiful.
Well, interesting about the ceiling. So he had built it. It had cedar timbers. Cypress timbers, but that had been only harvested from fallen cypress trees
that were in the water.
That were in the water at the spring. Probably over 50 years old, they're estimating, and so they were center cut to make the ceiling. One of his first guests was a well-renowned painter from Europe, and he was like, what about painting the ceiling? And he painted the ceiling by hand, and it's just a masterpiece. They have had like 3 artists come in and just touch it up to keep it preserved, but he incorporated Native American art, he incorporated European art, Spanish. It was just it's stunning.
It's very well done. Then also in that lobby area, there's a really nice high-end restaurant. We just poked our head in.
We weren't really dressed for high-end restaurant, white tablecloths.
But on the other side, there is the little store, and
it's really what they called the parlor originally, but it's now like the camp store, the office. There's a little bar in there at night.
And they have ice cream, shakes,
sandwiches. There's a small menu of sandwiches. There's even like you get a Cuban or a turkey sandwich, but there's hamburgers and hot dogs.
Yeah.
Really good ice cream. They even have the original kind of soda fountain drinks. They've got phosphates and other sodas.
Yeah, that was really neat. And then you walk out and there's the spring. Now, like I mentioned, when you drive in and you turn toward the lodge, you park there and you can go through the lodge. But if you go straight at that 4-way stop sign,
where it says swimming,
to where it says swimming, you kind of loop around. You come by the side of the lodge, and there's extra parking off to the right.
Easier parking, I would say.
Yeah, and there's a nice paved path where you can walk. If you got beach buggy with some chairs and towels and whatnot, you can easily walk from that parking area down to the spring. You walk through a little. They call it a spring store.
A spring store. And so it's got inflatables and beach toy kind of stuff, rafts, and they actually would like you could buy a raft and then they will blow it up. They had an electric pump. They were blowing them up for people.
Yeah. I think they had some snacks and candy bars.
Candy bars and snacks, like probably some, like ice cream in a package.
Yes.
I think you could get a hot dog. So if you were because you were supposed to be completely like dried and not really like in your swimsuit, or at least in cover-ups to go into the lodge. You had to wear shoes. If you wanted not to do any of that, you could go, just in that shop and grab a hot dog. The other thing is there's really nice bathrooms and changing rooms there.
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
full on like dressing rooms with like a seat and
Yes. And then past that is the little, almost like a little museum-y kind of thing where you wait to take the boat ride. We'll come back and talk about the boat ride here again in a minute. You cannot reserve your spot at the boat ride there. You got to reserve your site. Preferentially, do it in advance. Do it online in advance because they only have a certain number of slots for the boat. We'll get back to that in a minute. You walk past that and you walk into the swimming area.
which is it's remarkable. It was really neat.
Yeah, the swimming area itself is kind of unique because it's got trees, but it's got kind of a sandy area where you can set up a chair, put some towels
So
down.
we were in the shade in that part, which doesn't lend itself to want to get in the spring because the spring is
It's cold.
cold.
It's cold. They said that it averages about 70 degrees year round, 68 in the winter, 70, 71, 72 in the summer. It just doesn't change much because it's coming from so far underground. That water is nice and cold. That's also what helps make it so crystal clear.
It's gorgeous. I mean, it is really pretty, and it's got, which a lot of places have, removed them or you're not allowed to swim out to them, but it's got two big, like regular size flat swimming platforms, and then it's got a double-decker pier platform, and all of them you can climb on, jump off of.
Yes.
Play.
So when we got there, Sam Henry and I decided we were going to jump off the platform right away. Before wading in.
They didn't wade in, they didn't put their feet in the water. Clara and I went and put our feet in the water and realized that it was cold. Like, I had been in a spring, so I knew it was going to be cool, but it wasn't cool. It was cold.
It was cold.
Cold.
It was very cold.
Cold. So Claire was like, we should tell the boys as they're waiting in line just to jump full body in. And I was like, let's just see how that goes.
Yeah, we could have used that little bit of heads up. I jumped in from the upper platform and was so shocked. Dropped the GoPro. It took my breath away, but I quickly recovered and made several other trips down. We mostly jumped off of the second level. That top level, I think this was 22 feet, and it's high up there. And I worry about hitting the bottom, but they say that that's one of the deepest points.
Yeah, it's
and
really
just past that white buoy, they said it is up to 100 feet deep. So that's where the main center of the spring is that goes way down.
Yeah, interesting that the ranger told us that the spring, you could put a 2-lane highway down into that spring. So it's not just deep, it's wide. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you said 200 and some odd million gallons of water a day come out of that. There's so much water, it would fill up an Olympic-sized swimming pool in 60 seconds. So just remarkable the amount of water that comes out. And because it's clear, because it's cold, it makes for really cool visuals. You can see the grass moving.
You can see the fish nibbling on the grass.
We got to see the manatees. Really cool. There was one point, unfortunately I had the GoPro up at the beach. I didn't have it with me. When a manatee came swimming by one of the swim platforms.
And then decided just to come on in.
So
see what the kids were doing.
It went underneath the swimming rope. Clara jumped in, was able to. She didn't touch it, but she got really close to it. That was really special and unique, and kind of made her day.
We have a little clip of her telling us about it.
Yes.
Who was? The manatee. And then all of a sudden he
came in the swimming area.
Yeah, and he jumped, and all these people started jumping in, and I jumped in. And I got to swim with him, and I got to see him. I really wish I could pet him.
I know, but you can't.
We had reserved a spot on the boat to take the boat tour. It is not a glass bottom boat, so go ahead and dispel that right away. There is a glass bottom boat there, but they said the clarity has to be just right, which I don't really understand because it seems
so
crystal clear. But instead it's a large pontoon boat. Really,
I think he called it a jungle cruise boat, which was, super cool. That would have been exciting. But I think that online and things they still call it glass bottom.
Glass bottom. But it's about 1.5 miles down and 1.5 miles back up. We got to see all kinds of neat animals.
Oh gosh.
And he did a great job.
He was a really great. Carson was a phenomenal tour guide.
Yeah.
The kids counted. They said they saw 22, which means there was probably 200 we didn't
alligators.
see.
Yeah,
22 alligators.
Yeah,
we
the
didn't see.
alligators were pretty much
There
everywhere.
was a doe on the kind of drinking out of the water and looking at us. There was
we did see a pod of manatees at a
little
distance.
family.
It was hard to be able to get them on camera. I don't know that really showed up well, but they were there. We saw all kinds of different birds. I wanted to see a snake. We didn't see snakes.
I'm sure there were snakes.
Yes, I'm sure there were snakes. So it was really neat as you kind of ride down. You saw a bunch of mullet. That's the predominant fish there. We could also see the mullet from the swim platforms. And then you go 1.5 miles down, and he turns around, and the park continues for another 2 miles down the river, but no motorized boat has ever been past that turnaround point.
Well, and they don't let any, it's not open to the public at that point.
Right.
Like, you can't even kayak down there with nobody. The naturalist goes twice a year to do a count, animal count. It is really the preserve part of that state park.
And he said that their estimate, their naturalist that has gone down there twice a year and done the surveys, estimates there's over 600 alligators on that river, which I have no doubt. He said, but the big ones are down there on that end, which is kind of going to lead me to one thing that I think a lot of people were concerned about in the swimming was alligators. Since there's so many alligators in that river, why are we swimming where there are alligators? And the reality is, there's so much activity, the alligators don't want to be anywhere near that. The alligators are all about solitude and peace and
they want to conserve, as they're efficient with their energy. They don't even eat all the time. People just assume they're just eating a lot. They're not. They're laying on the bank. They're staying warm. They're conserving their energy. And there's lots and lots and lots to eat down the river.
Yes.
So there's no reason for them to come into the swimming hole. Now, as you come into the swimming hole, there's a legit sign that says, alligators live here.
Yes.
But the swimming hole really, at the most it was 8 feet deep.
Yeah.
And it's not open, I think it opens at 9 and it closes before dusk. Or the whole park closes at dusk, so you gotta be out of the swimming hole earlier than that.
Right.
Alligators are active at dusk and at dawn. So you're not in their main time. It really isn't a concern.
Yes. I have no fear at all of alligators. Plus, it's so freaking clear. You would see an alligator coming. Everybody would go, alligator, run. But they ain't coming.
When the manatee came, there was a little girl standing on one of the swimming platforms, and she saw the manatee from out in the water, and she was screaming, manatee, because he was outside the swimming area looking. There's always somebody up there watching the water and just looking at the fish and other things, and she started screaming manatee well before that manatee got even near us. So I feel saying alligator.
Yeah. Another neat thing, we kind of mentioned it I think earlier, because of the way that the topography and the river is, and especially coming back up, they come through the backside. Hollywood fell in love with the Wakulla River back in the 40s and 50s. They filmed several movies there. The most famous is The Creature from Black Lagoon. So as you're going on the tour, he talks about that. I'm actually going to pause here and kind of he's going to explain it better than I can, so I'm going to pause and let you kind of see what it is that Carson said about filming the Black Lagoon here. I thought it was interesting.
Nonetheless, in the 1940s, Hollywood was convinced. They came out here and filmed Tarzan's Secret Treasure and Tarzan's New York Adventure, starring Johnny Weissmuller. Now, Johnny Weissmuller actually invented the Tarzan yell here in the park. It was not a part of the original script. If you haven't seen the Tarzan movies, you've heard the Tarzan yell. And no, I'm not going to recreate it for you. Now, during filming, Johnny Weissmuller stayed up at the lodge, and in the morning she'd open up his bedroom window and give out his iconic yell to let the chefs know he was ready for breakfast. I'm sure this was more amusing for the other guests than the actual staff. Now, the other movie filmed out here that you've heard of is The Creature from the Black Lagoon, filmed in the 1950s, most notable for its underwater cinematography. This S-curve up ahead of us is where one of the most infamous scenes was filmed. And then straight up ahead of us, soon to be on your right, behind those branches blocking the waterway, over there, that's the creature's lair. We don't have access back there anymore. Now, the creature himself was a man named Rico Browning, and he was actually a part-time lifeguard out here. He was not supposed to play the creature. The original actor decided to take a boat tour like you folks are today, and when he saw how many alligators and other things he'd be swimming with, decided to pack his bags and quit as soon as he got back to the dock. Thus, Rico Browning was thrown into the role and jump-started his stuntman and producer career. Besides being the creature from the Black Lagoon, his other notable accomplishment is he was the producer for the Flipper series, which some of you may have heard of.
So, all in all, Wakulla Springs was a really neat
It is
visit for
the,
us.
so far in Florida, I would say this is the best $5 you're going to spend.
Yes, it
in
was.
Florida.
To me, it really was what a visit to old school Florida was all about. Between the lodge, the swimming hole, the animals, all of it. It was just cool. We got to see. When I think of Florida, I think of alligators. I think of manatees. We saw both. I think of springs and swimming in cold water. We got to do that. We got to see that Spanish.
And the old platform and
Yeah.
the Spanish motif.
Yeah, it was just neat. So, well worth the stop. Now we're going to be on our way to Pensacola. We're actually going to be staying in Milton, Florida. On the route there, I could probably make it in about 3 hours, but that's on the interstate. We're in Florida. We're going to take the circuitous route to get there, but I think it's going to be better views. We're going to take the Big Bend Scenic Highway, which is Highway 98, which travels right along the coast. Beautiful scenery. I hope there's not a lot of traffic, but we may probably cut north before we get to the really heavy populated areas, and we'll do kind of a hybrid trip. So some on the interstate, some on the Big Bend Highway. So check out the next video. You'll see that and our exploits around Pensacola. Thanks for watching. 3, 2, 1, jump.